Ladies and gentlemen, friends and family around the world, it's Greg.
It's Matt.
And we're the Bottom Tier guys. Thank you so much for being here with us. This is our final episode of 2022. We are so thrilled that you're here with us today. Matt, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. You know, it's been an amazing year, and honestly, like, starting this journey with you and doing this podcast has been kind of a really crazy experience. Like,
it really has.
We did a YouTube channel, podcast, and just a lot of new skills learned and a new hobby found. It's been a great year.
It really has been.
Mm-hmm.
So this episode is going to be a little bit different, everybody. Because it's the last one of the year, because we're coming up on the holidays, Matt and I are taking a couple of weeks off for the rest of the year.
Yep.
We'll be back, of course, in the beginning of January. But for this episode, we really just wanted to kind of step back a little bit and sort of take a look at 2022, both sort of in flesh and blood in general, and then our particular journeys as well. Sort of getting into the hobby and exploring that, and hit you with a little final lessons learned for the year.
Yeah.
But so let's
more and a little surprise
and a little Christmas bonus. So let's just talk a little bit about the journey. Like we've only been in this hobby for the last 9 months or so.
Has it been 9 months?
Something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Like last springtime, I think.
Wow. That's crazy.
Kind of mind blowing,
Yeah.
right? Like I basically, like, I can still see the day when I'm just sitting in my office at work and you knock on my door and you come in like, "Hey, Greg."
Hey, Greg. Yeah, it was like, "Hey, Greg, do you play trading card games?" Like, yeah. Who do you think I am?
I did, literally, that's like what I said.
Yeah.
And I pointed to a box of, like several boxes of like Magic the Gathering bulk that I had in my office to play around with in my off time.
Yeah.
And we just started from there because you and I had worked together sort of for a little bit before that, but we had never really like sat down and talked about anything or anything like that. Like we knew enough to know that we were sort of nerds.
We were in the
nerds
same
of a
spaces.
feather.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But never really to like build that. So this was like not only just the intro to the hobby, but it was really the starting step on what has become a really rich and fulfilling friendship between you and me. And I hope you feel the same way. I'm sorry to put you on the spot like this.
No,
because now of course everybody will hear you try to let me down easy, which is embarrassing for both of us. So maybe we just lie here.
No, for real. Like honestly, like that was the start of us being able to hang out every single day. Like we would go. That's the one thing I miss about us both working at the same office.
Absolutely.
Because there was a time when all of a sudden it was moved away, and I remember being really bummed about it because every lunch break or any opportunity we had, we were diving into Flesh and Blood.
Before our shift started, in the middle of the day at lunch, after work, we would stay late and get a couple of games in. Like we were just full on jumping into this thing together.
Yeah, and it was really cool to be able to do that because I feel like that helped us progress faster in the game, and then eventually like. You were like, "Let's just do a podcast about it." And we're like, "Yeah, let's go."
I literally texted you like a month or so, I think, after we started playing, and was like, "Man, I kind of want to I really love this. Like, do you want to do a podcast?"
Yeah, and I had podcast experience too, and I think you have had too, right?
I've done like mic setup and stuff for them before, but actually like being on quote unquote air, a little bit new for me.
Yeah, so like I've had experience with a couple other podcasts that. We're not one was kind of successful, but we had to stop because like life kind of got in the way.
Like it does.
But it was cool. I was like, yeah, you know what? That's something I've been missing in my life. And so it just kind of aligned where we were able to do this. And I remember us picking the name, like we were shooting a lot of crazy ideas for names.
We were tossing some stuff back.
I wish I had the text.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just thinking like, man, I should have pulled up the text messages to it was pull like some of the bottom tier prototypes.
Flesh and Bros. Like, I don't know. That was one.
But it was all sort of punny stuff like that was really like sort of on the nose. And then, of course, eventually we came up with bottom tier. I forget who actually suggested
You suggested bottom tier.
Did I?
I actually,
oh, man, I'm way smarter than I thought I
was.
Well,
I honestly didn't understand tier. Like, when you said that, I was like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know what this is supposed to mean. Like, because we're on the bottom level. I was like, that makes sense. And then we went for it. And, like, it grew, like... Over time, I was like, "This is actually a brilliant name." Like, I wasn't sold.
It actually is pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the one top tier thing we do is
stay on the bottom.
Yeah, exactly, where we know we belong. But yeah, so and so that was incredible. We got into this like right after Everfest had launched, so it was kind of a good time to jump in.
Yeah, dude, I can finally tell my story on air. I don't know if I have.
Oh,
like,
do it.
I was addicted. I was buying tons of boxes, and so
tons. You were buying like 2 or 3 boxes
dude,
like a day for a bit.
And it was I think it was still a secret. It's still a secret in my house a little bit. But I was buying
anymore.
boxes like quite a bit, and I went to a game shop. Like, what was really cool is I got to find all these cool game shops. So I went to a different game shop than I normally do that I learned about, and I was like, "Oh, can I get a box of Everfest?" And there's like a new guy working there, gave me a case for the price of a box, and I came like back like a bandit.
Man.
And I think that's what put me back up. Of like, oh, I pulled the legendary, the silver palm hands.
Yeah,
sold that for Arcanite Skull Cap because we were like learning these cards were important, but we had no idea how to play with them.
And at the time, you had to be running Skull Cap.
Yep.
Like that was the only thing that you had in that
That's
slot.
what everyone told me to run, and I was playing Bolton. You were playing Chain.
Oh man, the old days.
Yeah.
Still rocking those pre-con blitz decks.
Yeah.
With like just 1 or 2 little tweaks in them.
Yeah. I remember going to our first armory, and your first armory and mine too. Like they were just like, what do you need? Like, oh, you can't be playing that. Like, oh, you should be doing this. Like, what's your deck list? And everyone was just helping us, and we're just like, I have no idea.
Like, literally the first match I had in an armory was against another guy who was just like, I'm not, I had the Blitz Precon, so I didn't have a lot of equipment. I had like Spellfray and stuff. He's running Azalea, so that Spellfray and stuff is going to do absolutely nothing. And he's just like, do you not have any of their equipment? Like, no, not really. And he hands me like stubbies and a couple of like the Ironhide things and stuff like that, so I could gear up. Like, just really a phenomenal experience.
Yeah.
Really, all in all. And then of course, somebody came along after our first match on that armory night and was like, that card's illegal, right?
And you're like, oh snap! And then we were like, oh, banned list. We need to check that stuff out. I think that was our realization that this game was competitive.
Like real competitive.
Because I was showing up to the armories just to like have fun.
Yeah.
And like it wasn't, and I still do.
Which is good.
I still do.
You really ought to show up to these things to have fun.
But I don't think I realized until like that day and a little bit after that this game is like you're there to win and like be competitive. Like everyone's very competitive.
And it really does sort of draw that kind of person to it who really wants to like get the reps in and start to improve in that way. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like a total like, not like shock or anything, but a little bit of like a culture clash for the first couple of armories we went to, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of, reorienting ourselves from, kitchen table sort of play to, oh God, this is for real stuff.
Yeah. And it was interesting because like I personally remember when the game finally clicked for me, right?
Yeah.
Like I finally was like, oh, I can win now. And that was when we went to the same event. You and I both showed up to the pre-release for Uprising a couple months later.
Hell of a lot of fun.
It was really cool. And I think I pulled a Ghostly Touch, and I was like, oh my gosh.
You did pull a Ghostly Touch.
I was like, I'm going to be playing Dramai.
Yeah.
And then I had no Dramai cards. I was like, I'm not going to be playing Dramai. And so we're sitting there across from each other, and I think I built 2 decks, Icelander and Fi, and I was like, I don't want to play Fi. I'm going to play Icelander. And I lost my first 2 matches, and then I switched to Fi, and then I was like, oh, this hero's like Ninja's a lot of fun. Like it was really good. Like Fi was just like, I'm just doing stuff, and like I actually felt like I was doing something because I feel like all the other decks I was playing made me feel like I was just waiting the long game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm just waiting for this power move, right? And Fi was the first time I was like, oh, I can be offensive. And that's when I realized.
You don't just have to charge up for Luminas. You can actually like do something each turn.
I could be super offensive. And so that's what made me like, oh, I can be like, I think that's when I decided like, I might be more of an aggro player, like that was really a lot of fun for me. And so that really clicked and made me like stoked that I found like a hero that I vibed with and got on this whole.
Yeah. Cause it's really nice, right? Just to find, a hero in this game who you just kind of get. Mm-hmm. You don't have to put in a whole lot of like extra research and stuff to figure out the play style or the mechanics of the deck or anything. You just kind of get it. Like I love that. Yeah. I love that so much.
It's so good. And so it's a huge journey, dude. Like these 9 months.
It really is. Like we start coming in off of Everfest with, Starvo still in rotation and all of that, which fortunately you and I both managed to miss.
Yeah. Cause as soon as we got in, I think like a month later, he was Living Legend.
Yeah.
But like
this is really fast.
I think I was like looking at cards and like, I didn't know how to decipher the website, but I was like looking and I was like, oh, Starvo's apparently really good. I should probably get on that.
We were in my office again, and we were looking at the list of heroes, and you were just like, well, I've heard Starvo is really good. And I opened him up and I look at the hero ability, and I said something like, Matt, I have no idea what any of this does, but this seems really broken.
Yeah, and I was like, I guess it's really good. We should try to find that. And then no one in our local meta played it, and then it was Living Legend, and I was like, that's when we had the realization, like, oh, heroes won't last forever. And then the whole rate, like, also this year, like, we joined at the right year because this is the year where like live events was huge. So
we hit it.
So we not even saw Starvo get Living Legend, but we got to watch like Prism and Chain get Living Legend too.
We did,
which was huge.
We got to participate in that a little bit, and it was a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But like just the evolution of the game, along with kind of our journey along it, has been a really interesting parallel to sort of look at.
Yeah.
Because, as things are changing, overall in the meta with LGS and with the game itself, that sort of influences, I guess, where we go on it. Like, if we take the Chain thing, for example, I found Chain really early, really fell in love with him, and then he got LL'd at a CC, and I went on this whole, like, side odyssey of trying to figure out who the hell I was going to replace him with. Which was just a really fun like month and a half, I think.
Yeah, it
just,
was interesting.
Poking at things, it was an adventure.
It's really interesting because like every hero plays so unique that you can't duplicate the feeling you have with each hero.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, Chain is super interesting because you can go so wide and like, even if you're not producing a lot on your turn, like, you feel like you're doing so much because it's like there's move this action, I got this, happening. I'm upkeeping like my this. Yeah, Chain's a like really cool and makes your mind work in a lot of different ways. And I'm sad I kind of missed jumping on the Chain board because I was just like, oh well, I guess I'll never get to play Chain, or like, But
still legal in Blitz and Commoner.
I have not made a Chain Commoner deck. I don't know.
Honestly,
why. Don't know why.
He's not that great in Commoner.
Don't say that to Jamie.
No. I've said that to Jamie before, and Jamie has affixed me with a look so venomous I could feel the skin of my face peeling off. It was terrifying.
Yeah,
that's a man who loves his rune blades.
Mm-hmm. But you did find your next hero.
I did, yeah. Eventually, and kind of a good story here too. Just went to an armory one night, didn't have a deck or anything. It was like a total last minute thing. One that I don't usually go to most of the time. And one of the guys in the community, Jim, shout outs to Jim, he's been on the show once or twice before, had his Oldham deck just like ready to go, and he was good enough to let me borrow it. And that night I discovered that I actually really like playing Control.
And we kind of had a little like, you had a little aha too. We were playing matches, I think, before we recorded a podcast. I don't know why we were playing so many matches on one day. I think you wanted to get some games in.
Yeah.
Before we recorded. And I was like, oh, I made a Oldhim and a Bravo deck. Let's just do a Guardian battle with Commoner.
Yeah.
And you were like, I actually think I might like Guardian.
Yeah, like just being able to like slow down for a second, and outside of like an armory space or something where there was that competitive edge, to be able to slow down for a minute and really like think through the synergies of the lines and everything, like that's when it all kind of started to click for me, and I realized like, cool, I'm happy to block with two things out of my hand, pitch a blue, and then play something big. Like, that works for me.
Or pitch your whole hand and play something giant.
Pitch your whole hand and play something giant. Let's get the pulverize in here. Let's go. So like just a really fascinating journey, kind of in that microcosm almost. Just the hunt to find how you're going to play the game is kind of the overall journey. Writ small, right? Like we started out, didn't have any idea what we were doing, could barely read the cards. Figured it out over the first couple of matches. In our first match against each other, we were both playing the Ira Welcome deck.
We had no idea how Ninja worked.
Zero idea how Ninja worked. I didn't pull off a combo. We didn't really understand Go Again at that point. So
we thought, I was like, combo Go? I don't know. Yeah.
This is weird, confusing, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Basically. But we kept with it, and we kept going. And from there, we grew and evolved, and we learned our decks, and we learned the decks around us, and we continued to find the things that worked for us. So, like, really, like, that's the journey, right? Is starting off from, basically nowhere, and then evolving not into, just better players, but I think, better people as we've been through this, as we've made the connections with other people, as we've built the connection between ourselves and put our energy into this and like the YouTube channel and everything. I think that it's really like, I don't know for you, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth or anything, but
eloquently said,
But this whole thing has just been really kind of a salve for me, to be honest with you. It's been kind of a rough couple of years, as I'm sure everybody's experienced, but a lot of stuff going on personally in life and everything, a lot of change, a lot of upheaval, and having something like this that I could fall back into, and having somebody here with me who was along for the ride with me, and we could bond over a mutual thing and really delve into it together, like that's been enormously helpful for me this year. So I haven't said it before, and I'm probably never going to say it enough, but thank you for being there for me, Matt. I really appreciate you.
Oh, Greg, I love you too, and I love you too. Yeah, I'm grateful for this. Like,
I love you, man.
Yeah, I love you too. Like, it's just like, honestly, like having this every single week is something I really look forward to. And sometimes we show up, we don't really have much to say, but we always find something really awesome to say. And like, I'm really proud of like the things we've been able to build and the friendship that's been able to come out of it. And literally, like, honestly, like, it's kind of interesting when you get into a creative space in general, especially like now, like without video editing and stuff like that, I don't think I would have been able to find different passions too. Like this card game has led to like building a community and like making more friends than what I like currently had. And I'm excited.
And it like literally led you into a new job.
Yeah. And so like now I video edit for a living, which is totally like, wouldn't have had those skills without just doing some videos
based off of the low tier stuff that we put out on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, they were like, "You got it,"
which is incredible to me.
Sweet.
But it really just goes to speak everybody as to how good Matt actually is at this.
Yeah. So it really does. Like this means a lot to me, and I'm excited to see where we go. Like from here, like next year we have big plans, but also like something I've learned, like a skill set that you have that I don't, is I go like 300 miles per hour for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't mean to. I'm just like, I just start screaming and going.
That accurate. Yeah. You did that 15 minutes ago, as a matter of fact.
It was like, and I can't slow down. And something that was great about you was you were actually like kind of not, pulling me back sounds bad, but like you were actually kind of being like grounding. There you go. You were like, hey, we don't need to do a video a day. That seems very overzealous. I was like, do we need to do 3 videos a week, man? And it also was like,
buddy. I mean, you're the one editing them.
And I was like, yeah, I can't do this. Like, as you can see, we were just like, and then kind of down. Like, content creation is super interesting, and so I'm excited to be able to set our goals for New Year's and kind of be like, all right, we are going to make sure we have something out every week, but it also doesn't need to be 20 videos a week. It just like we got our podcast every week, and we can do another video every week and be able to grow from there and see where it goes.
Exactly.
For that.
Exactly. So. And then like on the flip side, like I tend to be way cautious. Like I hold back quite a bit. Like I'm very slow moving when I have my druthers about it. So it's been really phenomenal that you've been here to kind of like pull me along, to kind of provide a little bit more of that like urgency almost.
Yeah.
Instead of me just sitting, on the ground for 45 days going, I'm not sure about this yet. I'm not sure about this yet. Wait.
And I'm just like, let's go.
Right. So it's like, I feel like not only are we actually like good friends, we actually like have good chemistry together. We complement each other in a lot of different ways. So I'm just absolutely tickled, pinker than I normally am to be here with you and to continue going on down this particular path. That's
what this is all about, right? And this,
exactly.
And I know the segue you're just about to say, which leads us to our lessons learned.
To our lessons learned. It's our recurring segment, everybody.
The last one of the year.
The last one of the year. So we wanted to do a little something special. We talked a little bit about this before we actually stepped into our recording room, but we kind of have the same lesson learned this week. Matt, do you want to drop it on us?
Man, now I have to remember it. No, the lesson learned is literally like, the community that you build around yourself is literally the lesson here. Is like, as you get into these games and you start going to armories, or even if you play online and meet other people that way, you're building a community that honestly, and also like this podcast, like everything we've been talking about, the community that we build honestly turns into like this family and something that you want to be able to continue to nourish and build friendships off us and go. Like, no matter what happens in Flesh and Blood, if you're here forever and you're like, I'm going to be Mr. Competitive and make $1 million, right?
Michael Hamilton.
Yeah. You have a community that you're probably going to have lifelong friendships from it. Like, this is a steeple moment where forever you and I are going to be friends pretty much for the rest of our lives because of
I'm pretty much sure of that.
what we're making here.
Exactly.
Like, it will never go away, you know?
Exactly. And like that kind of gets down to back in one of our very first episodes, like the first or the second one. I put it as, you know, we're here to be a resource for the people who are, you know, here a little bit more casually, who are just here to be buddies, being nerds together, playing a card game. And like, of all the lessons that we've learned over this last year or so, like we've talked about mechanical stuff, we've talked about, you know, personal outlook stuff, we've talked about meta and like the whole nine, but really the thing that I at least keep coming back to, and I think you do too, is that none of that would matter, none of it would actually have an impact if it weren't for the excellent people that we're lucky enough to be surrounded by.
Absolutely.
We've had a number of them on the show with us. I'm hoping that in this next year we'll be able to encourage a few more to get on as more of a semi-regular thing. But the community is what makes it. And what really sets Flesh and Blood apart from a lot of other like fairly competitive games and stuff people can get in is that ultimately there's very little of that sort of toxicity that you see in a lot of things. There's no like 11-year-olds, you know, screaming about doing terrible things to your mother or anything like that. We're all genuinely like here to support one another, to see one another succeed, and to help out on that journey, whether it's cards or whether it's, you know, we need to make sure to invite this guy to this thing because he's lonely, or whether it's you know, you're moving. Okay, look, we're going to have a going away party for you. Shout out to you, Marshall. Hope you're doing great in Japan.
Yeah. That was a great. I was going to bring that up. That was like a huge lesson of like what a community can do is like someone who's been here teaching people for a long period of time. Marshall like had to move somewhere where we're probably like a lot of people may not see him physically again, or he'll come back and visit,
or at least not for a while.
Yeah,
right? he's not the fixture that he was.
Yeah. And so it was just really cool to be able to see the community like come storms a blazing, like, oh, we got cake, we got pizza, we got a mat to sign,
and a ton of people showed up, like people who don't always show up to things. There were a couple of others that were there who aren't always there. They came out to support their friend on this new chapter of his life, and that just absolutely beautiful thing to behold. Yeah.
And it's only something you can get in a hobby like this. And if you're here being like, man, like I want to learn about Flesh and Blood and stuff, like this is like you're probably familiar with it too, with whatever hobby you're into. Like just building a community around the things that you like creates these friendships that last for a very long time. So
it really does.
Yeah.
So with that, everybody, I think we've basically concluded our regular episode, but we do have one more special treat for you. Matt and I, because we are possessed of a massive amount of hubris, decided that because it's the holiday season, because we wanted to do something a little bit special for this last one, that we would adapt a little narrative piece for everybody. So we took the timeless classic "Twas the Night Before Christmas," and we sort of rewrote it to be a little bit more wraithy. So we both have it pulled up here. Matt, do you want to start us off, or do you want me to go?
Yes, we'll let right here the music's gonna fade in, so just listen.
We got some sound effects.
All right. 'Twas the night before Rathemas, and all through the night our heroes lay in rest, for tomorrow they fight. Azalea has her bow tucked up under her bed, while her shitty xmas stockings hang drying over her head.
Normally, Rathemas would be for celebration, but war has been raging, no time for relaxation. Sir Bolton is awake making plans for the morrow, for the war against evil has caused him much sorrow.
A war was waging between shadow and light, as heroes chose sides in the ongoing fight. None among them knew what would come, yet all were assured the fight would be done. Once the sun broke the sky with its rays, would the forces meet on the most blessed of days.
The mysterious figure walks across the sands, nobody still alive with knowledge of his plans. The contracts are signed and the pieces in place, Arachne will not hesitate to stab them in the face.
Leviah shouts as her companion has fallen, for Chain has been slaughtered before beginning his rebellion. Light has won for only a short time, but a plot against Briar is soon to unwind.
Rathemas can continue with all of its joys, as the heroes can relax and play with their toys. The heroes of Wraith gather in unity, for this card game, to us, is our community.
Merry Rathemas from the bottom tier. We hope that you continue to join us next year.
And for the final time in 2022, everyone, I'm Greg.
And I'm Matt.
And we hope that you have a wonderful, safe, and joyful holiday season. We'll see you all next year.
Ho, 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 ho.